Tuesday's election for Pulaski County Sheriff offers voters a clear choice between status quo and change. Running on a platform for change, Eric Higgins spent 30 years with the Little Rock Police Department, the last 10 as Assistant Police Chief. Higgins is a volunteer instructor for the Exodus Project, which provides tools and training for men and women incarcerated. I'm Deborah Robinson, and the choice is clear for the Den. No status quo. Change is needed. The Den endorses Eric Higgins for Pulaski County Sheriff. See why in my interview. And vote Tuesday for Eric Higgins, Pulaski County Sheriff. So you would think 30 years with the Little Rock Police Department and in law enforcement, you would think that with that experience you could go and be anywhere. Why are you here in Pulaski County?
You know, I love this community. My family's here, and I've had opportunities to go other places, at least to pursue that opportunity. Just didn't feel right. I just need to stay here and continue to serve this community.
So with those 30 years, take us through as a cadet and then all the way through as assistant police chief. Tell us what that experience was like and what were your duties and responsibilities.
Yeah, I worked the patrol division. When I became a police officer, I worked the neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up in the south end of town. I worked my neighborhood, worked East End. The focus of treating people with respect, treat them how you want to be treated. I worked in the detective division. Became a detective working stolen cars, things like that. And of course, when you work midnights, you end up being involved with some of the homicide investigations, just on the front end of those. Became a sergeant, tested for sergeant, and worked Southwest Patrol Division, and became a lieutenant, and worked downtown patrol and Northwest Patrol when they opened up that precinct 311 shift. So I've worked patrol divisions. I was public information officer for Little Rock for maybe about a year and a half. Was blessed to get promoted out of that to, not that it was a bad job, but just saying getting the promotion to captain, and being able to work in the records section, working with primarily the civilian employees, the non-sworn officers, so the civilian folks, and I really enjoyed that because I think prior to me coming there, they felt like they were less than, treated a little bit differently, than the sworn officers. And so I went in with the whole goal of making them know that they're equal. We all have a job to do, and we just have different assignments, and we have to be treated equal.
The largest city.
Yes.
The county seat, Little Rock is, the most crime.
Unfortunately.
How did all of that experience get you ready for this position that you're going for now as the sheriff of Pulaski County?
Yeah. Working in the largest city, and we've had a lot of crime, unfortunately, in our city. But working upper management is key. It's not just being in a position to follow instructions, but it's to come up with ideas of how do we do things better. And I think that's what's prepared me for that, looking at technology and what technology how can we utilize technology for the betterment of the community. And so I think my experience there, as assistant chief, before I left, I was supervising the two other assistant chiefs. So I was in the position that one would call a deputy chief, where the only person that I reported to was the chief. But I'm involved in negotiating to buy property to build the 12th Street substation that's there now. Involved in working with the contractors and finding ways to save money to ensure we're able to build a quality facility that has a potential to serve the community on having the public come in there with businesses, but also serve the officers that work there. Been involved in the technology of in the cars, from purchasing cars to getting the computers in the car, finding ways to work money out to save in one area so that we can have the resources to put computers in the cars. And the key thing is been over training division and recruiting. If you want to have a quality police service, you got to look at how you're recruiting. What's the message you're giving to the people? What do you want? I'm not looking for someone who wants an exciting job day in and day out, because it's not like that every day. Every day, your job is to serve people. And sometimes it's in the minor things, but when people call the police and when they don't know who else to call, it's important to them, and you've got to be there to address their needs.
With all of that experience, why did you choose now to go for Pulaski County Sheriff?
My experience not only with the Little Rock Police Department, upper management there, and all the law enforcement experience there. The last 3 years, I've been working in a reentry program. I've been volunteering my time working with people who are incarcerated, who want to come back and be successful. And I'm running because I've had an opportunity to work in a broad way of dealing with our community. And if we're going to address crime in our community, it's not just putting people in jail. We often look at the crime, and when we work our way backwards from that and say, don't commit this crime, and these are the reasons why. If we really want to have an impact on the community, then we have to look at the individual, and we have to say, let that person realize they have value, and then they have skills, they have giftings, and then you go into, these are the principles we need to follow. And then the proof is how they live their life. So my experience tells me that there's so many factors that come into play for people to get involved in criminal activity. Sometimes it's drug addiction, and people are dealing with their addiction, which leads to criminal activity. Sometimes it's economic issues. You can tell a 16-year-old kid growing up, go out there and get a job. Maybe they're staying in a single-family home, and their mom's working 2 or 3 jobs, or with their grandmother, and they want to bring some resources into the home. Well, if all you have are liquor stores and convenience stores, where do they go? So we have individuals getting involved in criminal activity because of economic concerns. They need to bring money home. You got to have your lights on. You got to be able to have food on the table. So those are issues that come up. We've got to provide economic opportunities, and I think as sheriff, that's a pulpit that you can stand up and talk about that. What really impacts our community? What are the real causes of crime? A lot of people think that people are just bad, and they just want to get out here and commit crime, but that's just the way they are. You have a few people who are like that. The majority of people are not like that. They get involved in crime, in criminal activity, not because that was their goal, their intent to do that. Things happen to them, and we've got to have a broad approach on how we deal with crime. And I think my experience of understanding how to serve the community, from youth programs to the day-to-day policing to working with people coming back to our community, it's because of that I'm running for sheriff.
You mentioned the community, but now let's talk about the sheriff's department.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest issues, the differences between you and your opponent, is he says that he wants to continue what has been happening in the sheriff's department under the last 2 sheriffs, and you say there's time and it's time for change.
Yes.
Elaborate on that.
We have high crime in our community. We the last 15, 20 years are talking about jail space, and we're going to continue to talk about that unless we do something different. My opponent doesn't have the experience I have in trying to make things different. We've got to look at that jail and provide some services for those people coming in and out of that jail. You have a significant number of people who are being incarcerated, whether it's on a misdemeanor offense, because they're poor. They don't have the money to pay the fine. They don't have the money for bond. And you get caught in the system. And so we have to look at what are the issues that create this environment for them. Why are they there? Now, how can we work to keep them out? That doesn't mean the sheriff's office has to provide all those services, but there's organizations out there, and we have to open the door to those organizations. We're going to do something different. What is the impact? Are we actually changing lives? And that's what I bring to this, a holistic approach to this, because I'm not just looking for programming. I'm looking for results.
Speaking of the county, I think it's like 33% or so African American, but I was looking on and I looked at the roster at who is actually in the Pulaski County Detention Center there on Roosevelt. Out of the 1,117 people who are there right now, 620 of them are black males. Another 72 are black females, which means that you've got 61, almost 62% of the people in the county jail are African American. What does that say, and how can you make a difference in that number?
You know, what that says is that we're not concerned. I believe in serving this entire community. I believe law enforcement, there's too much focus on enforcement. We are peacekeepers. How you judge the effectiveness of a law enforcement agency is not by the number of arrests or tickets that they write. It's the absence of crime. And that has to be the focus. The OK program that we have at Little Rock has, a mentoring program where you assign an African American officer to work with African American youth, with African American boys, middle school and high school kids. When that program was presented to Little Rock, to the city of Little Rock, and even though the city leader said we're going to do this program, I insisted on going to Rancho Cordova, California, where this program started, where it was founded at, because I wanted to know, is this a viable program? And I went there and talked to teachers, talked to parents, talked to students, talked to city leaders, and found that it was viable. And that was when I came back and said, this is something we need to do. And that's the way I operate. I'm always looking for what are we doing, and whatever process we're doing it in, why are we doing it that way? And then how can we improve it? Because we always have to do better. If we're satisfied the way things are, there's something wrong, because people are still being incarcerated. People are still having property stolen from them. People are still being killed. And so we can't be satisfied with that. We have to try to change this community to improve the quality of life for everyone in Pulaski County. You know, and I'm going to say this, that I know my opponent talks about, you know, the sheriff's office primary responsibility, their responsibility is the rural areas, out unincorporated areas. Well, if you look at their website, and then the current sheriff mentions the three mandates, legislative mandate of the sheriff's office. The first one is to provide law enforcement services for the citizens of the county. If you live in Little Rock or Jacksonville, North Little Rock, you're a citizen of this county. And so we have to be concerned about what goes on in all of Pulaski County. And we've got to take steps to improve the quality of life of everyone.
One of the things that when I thought about the options that we have for Pulaski County Sheriff, we either have continue status quo or we have change, a fresh new face, a fresh new approach. And when I think about the status quo, I had to do a little bit of research to see what is that status quo. What does it mean to follow in the footsteps of the sheriffs that came before you and to continue their programming? And with that, what I found was a bit disturbing on some of the a lot of lawsuits, you know, with the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, lawsuits being filed because pregnant women in jail were not given the proper care, to police officers being arrested in their private lives.
For the third time in less than a month, the Pulaski County Sheriff's employee arrested on criminal charges. Good evening, I'm Kevin Kelly.
I'm Donna Terrell, Fox 16's Marcy Manley, live tonight at the Sheriff's Office. And Marcy, we're talking 3 employees here, 3 different cases. I guess the first question would be, could this be a pattern or maybe a culture in the department?
Lawsuits, and several of them that really caused me to have a little bit of fear. And I kind of wanted to share this with you and show this to you so that you can give me your feedback on how you may have handled it or how you intend to handle a police department that some have said that has gone rogue in some of the reporting that I've been looking at.
They all started hollering my name, and they had guns, and I took off running. Next thing I know, I was getting hit in the head.
In August, Marty McLean told us he was afraid Pulaski County Sheriff's officers might end up killing him during an arrest for alleged narcotics possession.
Those guys right there, they're not officers. I definitely don't want them to be protecting my children. This
surveillance footage showing the acts that led to the suspensions of 2 Pulaski County narcotics investigators.
And those guys they need to lose their jobs.
In McLean's case, Supervisor Lieutenant James Potter initially found officers were following the use of force policy. When reviewing the video, something didn't match the officer's reports, leading Potter to determine Deputy Joseph Breaux was in violation, but Adam Robertson had followed proper policy.
There's no question they committed felonies on Marty McLean. Anybody can see that video. Multiple blows to the face and the back.
Internal Affairs found both failed to follow the use of force guidelines and suspended them, though making no mention of the difference in information provided by the officers in their reports and the video showing the arrests.
Those reports are false. What's so crazy is those reports were written obviously before they knew there was a video.
David Lewis is working McLean's case and is considering filing civil suits for him and 2 other individuals arrested by the narcotics unit.
The thing that ties all these together is filing false police reports and getting search warrants on false affidavits.
Like the case of Stacy Gall, where court records show Lieutenant Potter and Investigator Robertson from McLean's case helped facilitate an unconstitutional search on private property at the Gall Mobile Home Park in July 2013.
Well, they'd found this all without a search warrant, without consent, and over the express objection of the owner.
Deputies went onto the property to investigate a lead about a marijuana grow house Gall was allegedly running in this mobile home.
Then they report that they found vans under there and they smell marijuana under there. Well, that ain't gonna happen unless you take the skirting off or take it loose somewhere.
Deputies were there for about 2 hours before obtaining the warrant.
Then they take that evidence and go get a search warrant without telling the judge that they'd already entered the property.
The evidence thrown out by the judge after a year of court filings. Prosecutors dropped the charges, and the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office ordered to return all of Gall's property, excluding the dozens of marijuana plants they say they confiscated on site.
It seems to me it would be a big waste of time and money to have police that do these things, because then the guys they arrest walk out.
We looked into disciplinary histories of officers involved. What we found was Lieutenant Potter, the NARC unit supervisor, had been demoted in 2011 for lying to federal investigators and filing false paperwork while he worked off duty for the Disability Investigations Unit.
Once these officers have been branded as untrustworthy for the purpose of getting an affidavit, all of their cases should be thrown out.
In his letter of demotion, Potter was found to have been dishonest and was suspended for 30 days without pay. A year and a half later, he was promoted to the supervisor of the narcotics unit despite his dishonest history.
What's the philosophy that leads to that? I guess it's the philosophy of everybody needs to be in the pen but us, or something, but when we commit crimes, we don't get arrested.
David Lewis believes it's a unit gone rogue, ready to trample on anyone's rights.
We have to protect the Constitution, otherwise it may be me in that situation next, or you.
And without action from others, he believes some members of this unit will continue to be a problem instead of part of the solution for crime in the community.
So when I look at that, now that's just one story that I found that hits on personnel issues, that hits on the climate of a police department. So that is status quo. Right. You made a comment before where you said that you mentioned that we're not family.
Right.
Sort of explain to us what that means when you say that, and how this sort of police department could not run under your leadership.
When I say that we're not family, a lot of times, being a police officer is a very dangerous job, and it's a difficult job. And I believe that majority of officers try to do the right thing. But when you talk about family, and we think of our family members, and there's times when you have family members that may not do things that you're proud of. I'll just put it that way. But you're not airing your laundry, so to speak. So if the law enforcement environment, if the agency, you say we're all family, and I understand the value of saying that. What you're trying to communicate is that I care about you, I care about your well-being, and I'm concerned about you and your family. That's great. But we're not a family because of that message that it sends not to air your dirty laundry. We're working together, and I care about you, and I want to ensure that you are working in the best environment possible, but I've got to hold you accountable. And you have to know that. And your fellow officers have to know there's accountability. That when something is done wrong, When there's a situation, sometimes you have good officers that make mistakes. And it is so egregious that we need to separate you from the agency. It's not personal. You may have done a great job before, and we may have even had conversations, and I may like you as a person. But when you take actions that are as egregious as this, you can't work for us. Because the people, our community, they have to believe that we're going to do the right thing and we're going to hold each other accountable. Just like there's an expectation that officers will make arrests. And it's about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
We have to hold the officers accountable. And you have to communicate that from day one. In this race, in the Democratic primary, whoever wins, whatever sheriff, whoever you elect to be the Democratic nominee for Pulaski County Sheriff will be the next sheriff. There's no Republican running. There's no independent running. You have a choice of sameness, or you have a choice of new ideas. That's going to impact all of Pulaski County. That's going to reduce crime in all of Pulaski County. I am the one that's going to make a difference, because I don't believe in just continuing the same thing. I believe in improving. The way my mind works, it's how can we improve what we're doing? How can we do it better? And it's not about just putting people in jail. It can't be just about putting people in jail. I can look back at my career, and there's some arrests I'm really proud of some of the arrests I made to get some of the people off the street. But what I'm most proud of is the positive impact you can have on a person's life. I think about the kid that was brought in the detective division I chose not to charge, and when I was a detective, and then several years later, 20 years later, I'm assistant chief going into Sam's store, and a gentleman stops me, and he says, "Detective Higgins, I don't know if you don't remember me, but my son was in your office, and you didn't charge him, and you talked to him, and you talked to me about it. I just want you to know that he's finished college, he's married, He's got kids, and I just want to thank you." That's what's important. It's not always putting somebody in jail. It's about helping people, and that's what we're supposed to do. We've got to open our eyes to what the sheriff's office is about. People think it's about locking people up. Sure, we're going to lock some people up. Sure, we're going to arrest some people. But it's about improving the quality of life for people in our community. It's about helping people. That's what people call us for, is for help. And we have to have the right mindset. And we know that that's what we're there for. And as sheriff, that's what I'm going to communicate. It's not, we're going to make arrests. Sure, we'll do those things. But that's not the primary purpose for us. It's improving the quality of life of the people that live in the county. And that's what I'm going to do.
Welcome to the den. Welcome home. Hi everybody, this is Deborah. I'm excited to announce my latest business venture, The Den. It's a live internet broadcast and video production facility in Little Rock with 12 studios to broadcast live internet, television, radio, social media, vlogs, webinars, events, and much more. If you're an author, thought leader, expert, influencer, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, spiritual teacher, or religious leader, come see what we offer to help build your brand, message, product, business, or ministry. We're located at 322 South State Street in downtown Little Rock. Welcome to the Den. Welcome home.